Thank you so much, Chairman. Today we are discussing 3 bills relating to mining and mine reclamation. First, the Community Reclamation Partnerships Act would make it easier for community groups to clean up or reclaim abandoned coal mines that leach toxic pollution into the environment and threaten public health. This bill would allow Good Samaritans to use their own funds and do what they can to help clean up abandoned mines without having to take full legal responsibility for the toxic mess created by mining companies. I do believe this is a positive step towards addressing coal mining's harmful legacy that will build on funds appropriated through the Infrastructure Investments and Jobs Act to clean up and reclaim abandoned mine lands. That said, there are some aspects to this legislation that I would like to note. The legislation does include waivers to clean water standards that are potentially troubling. Specifically, these waivers for community reclaimers could potentially be misused by mining companies with poor practices, certain mining companies with poor practices, posing as community reclaimers who are really only hoping to profit off of remining old mine waste without complying with the law. I do hope to work with my colleagues across the aisle to make sure we potentially address any potential loopholes around reclamation. But that said, this is a positive step towards addressing coal mining's harmful legacy. Second, H.R. 2685, the Mining Schools Act of 2023, creates a new grant program for mining schools to train students across the country. With the growing focus on minerals needed for the energy transition, I agree that the workforce must be qualified and empowered to create a safer, more sustainable industry. For this, I would like to see a greater emphasis on studying reclamation, recycling, and mitigating community and environmental impacts. As I mentioned, we must be taking a whole of supply chain approach to how we manage our mineral resources in this country in order to reduce harms. I would also like to see labor provisions such as eligibility for union-associated training programs and greater workforce protections so that we don't end up with a new black lung epidemic. The last bill on the agenda, H.R. 3883, would nullify a mineral withdrawal in Railroad Valley, Nevada. Earlier this year, the Bureau of Land Management and NASA finalized a mineral withdrawal in Nye County to protect land essential to NASA's operations. This land is unique. It is the only location in the United States that NASA and many other satellite operators can use to calibrate their satellites. If the surface of this land were disturbed, all the satellite imaging that public and private users rely on for important science and decision-making would become essentially out of focus. It would make our satellites like a nearsighted person trying to drive with no glasses and a shattered windshield, not something we want to trust for our critical data. NASA and BLM followed the NEPA process to conduct this mineral withdrawal by collecting public input and considering other land uses. We know there are lithium claims in and around this withdrawal area, and it is still possible for a company to develop these resources. But as with any withdrawal, valid existing rights must be honored, communities must be consulted, and a mining proposal on this land should demonstrate that it would not interfere with NASA's use. This site is also essential to USGS, NOAA, and private companies like Planet Labs, which provides commercially available satellite data. I ask for unanimous consent to enter their public comments supporting the withdrawal into the record. Fundamentally, I look forward to working with all of my colleagues to ensure a safer, more sustainable mining industry with meaningful protections for our communities, the environment, and our most special places. We need meaningful tribal consultation and a whole of supply chain, whole of government approach to reducing consumption and boosting mineral reuse and recycling as well. We need thorough reclamation to ensure communities aren't left with the environmental or economic burden of mine waste or pollution. I'm happy to work across the aisle to address these challenges together where possible. I look forward to hearing from today's witnesses and continuing these crucial discussions. And before I yield back, as I am sure my colleagues are aware, we have a very unexpected and tight timeline on our hearing today. And to that end, I ask all of my colleagues on the committee to submit to their questions to the record as necessary to ensure we collect as much information as needed to evaluate these legislative proposals. Thank you, and I yield back.